Today I'm going to take a pattern from 12 to 16 strings, as well as try to make sure that I don't run into the problems of running out of string partway through it. It's a big thing that could be avoided, and I'm going to show you how to do that, so stick around. Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL, and today we are working with pattern 20998. So, you might remember this pattern from my recent mashup where I put two bracelets together. Well, this time I am going to change the number of strings in the bracelet. So this just happened where I made mine and Mandy liked it, and then she wanted a version of it for herself. And if you know anything about, like, if you go single stranded, right, there was only 6 colors. That means there's 6 strings, and that means there was not enough to actually have a kumi start for it. So what we had to do is we had to change the count from 6 to 8. So that was kind of cool and made it sort of interesting. And I thought, well, that would be kind of cool to show you guys kind of how that works. As well as there, okay, so her bracelet is much smaller than, say, anything I would make for anybody else, right? Because her wrists are really, really tiny. So I figured we would do this on this, which is a freshly made up 8 strings, well, 16 if you count all of them coming down, 16 strings template that's made to fit the average size person. So that's what we're going to do today. Haven't really worked out what colors to use. I think we're going to go with similar to what I had already used. Is there a lighter blue? Yeah. So, oh, I gotta anchor the layer. Damn it. Always forget that. Alright. 2, 3, 4. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, and then in 1. So I'm going to start in the middle because I'm not sure how many of this design that we can fit. I'm going to start in the middle, work my way up, and then sort of see if we can't figure out how we're going to do this. So inside of this is the yellow, and then it comes out for an additional 3 over like this, and we need an orange that comes this way. So if you remember when we first did this, it was replacing the 2 colors here, because if we do black, it makes the black lines go if you try to change the colors. So is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, there's a whole trying. Oh, that's not right. This goes here. Yeah, I tend to get better at this as I kind of move along. I have, whoops, better markers on the page to let me know where things start and where they end. Can you tell my concentration level is really high with this? 1, 2, 3. Nope, this isn't right. See, what really should be the giveaway is this string cuts over and that becomes that side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my other one, I went smaller to be able to fit in the space. 2, 3, 4, 5. getting so undecided here. Seriously. Let's just go ahead. The way we're going to find out is by copying out this color here and seeing how it fits into the other space. Oh, so if you didn't watch the other video or haven't, well, I guess it wasn't in the video. If you haven't been to my website and seen the finished product, because I put the photos and stuff there, I mentioned the fact that it is this color that I'm actually working with right now that gets used the most. And it got almost worrisome if like I could finish the bracelet when I made my own. So yeah, plan accordingly, I guess, is the general message. So now this tool here is select by color tool. That means when I hit this, all of that color is selected. And when I copy and paste it, it means I have an exact copy of that whole thing. So yeah, if we take a look, whoops, it goes outside of this whole thing by a lot. So let's Control Z, so, and Control A. So now we have everything again. So let's back this up a little bit. Grab the paint tool. Whoops. Let's go back here. Something. Darn it, I hit this one wrong. Alright. Control C, Control V. Okay. Oops, wrong tool. Alright, so now we're one set smaller. Let's see how this works out. Control C, Control V. Ooh, we are closer. I'm not sure if we go one set smaller, if that's good or bad. Let's go ahead and try it. Something not right. Hang on. Now the yellow would go there. The blue goes there. Is that right? Something's not right. Whoa, something went really wrong. Hang on, let me just kill off all this. It's confusing me. That comes up to there. That's it. Alright, so this has become much, much smaller. I'm not sure if I like that. Control C, Control V. Oh! But look at that. This is going to fit really, really well in there. So I can use the arrow keys to kind of get that sitting as it's supposed to be. There it goes. That's right, right? Yeah. Alright. I actually kind of like that. That actually, by just narrowing it down just a few, we can anchor. Alright, not bad. And we can select the color again, select the yellow, Control C, Control V. Make sure that we're right on the mark and anchor that in. So there's our yellows already done. We can select the orange, do the same thing, Control C, Control V. Here, unfortunately, the color is close to something over there, and it grabbed up something on the other side, but that's okay. We can erase whatever that is. There we go. So now that whole section is created. In my bracelet, what do we have? We have a darker blue, that's why. So now, oops, Control C. Need the paint. So in mine, the darker blue was supposed to just kind of come along in here, right? But I think we might just go ahead and bring it all the way out to the sides like this. Remember, we're trying to go for the whole 8 strings now. We have more strings to work with. This one here, it's sort of like it ran around it. So why not, right? The questionable part will be what happens inside of these little areas over here. Oh, that's wrong. Knew something fell off. And then we're also going to look at the possibility if there's a way of running the light blue in for one of the extra strings. We noticed before that this pattern has strings that don't really get used to make a knot. They're just the underlying strings. So if we can make a light blue, one of these colors in here, if we can make that into one of the underlying strings, we can then avoid running out when the whole bracelet goes. Of course, it has to be able to cross paths. So that's kind of one of the key things. Mind you, we could use this color and put it out here, but I'm not sure that that's kind of the right look that we want. All right, so now we need another color. We need something different that we're going to run around on the outsides. So I think because my bracelet ended up using a gray, I think we're going to use a gray. And while we're laying this one in, let's actually map it. See, I can go in and back out. Or I can stay out here. I think I'm going to stay on the outside. Not because it helps in any kind of real way, but if it leaves the string open that actually connects with that blue, I want to do that because that would seriously help in having strings that are all long enough. So this is kind of cool. I kind of like this pattern a lot, and I liked the colors that I chose for myself. So this is going to be similar to it. Mind you, mine has a couple extra colors because this is 16, mine is 24. So, and remember, we don't need to go all the way to the bottom with the pattern. We're going to flip it, and I'll show you something really cool about this. When we flip it, this pattern gets flipped, but it turns out correcting it so that way they're all in the same direction is really easy. So and I'm really undecided what color this should be. That's something I'm trying to work out in my head here as we go along. It could be the light blue. But I'm not sure. See, it would have to make sure that it helps the cause, right? You need strings that are going to make contact with it. The previous one that I made, I went back through it and I tried looking to see whether or not the string that doesn't get used could be the light blue. And it turns out the string that didn't get used, we put a dark blue in its place. Turns out that they don't meet up at all. I would have to have altered the pattern greatly just to have made that work. So yeah, that's an actual thing where you need it to be able to come into contact so that way it can switch. But even if it comes through in like the middle area here, you can change the knot so that way you can use the longer string. It just never came in contact. So that was a thing. Obviously, if we wanted to, when we're just adding a couple of strings, is we could have had just a couple of straight rows on the outside. And maybe some future video might have something like that happening, but I think it's a real disservice to just add the straight rows like I see some of the patterns doing. If you can make the pattern expand further out, like looking over at this pattern here, how that red was up, on the outside, we're doing it in the darker blue. By just expanding on it, we're kind of keeping the pattern very, very similar. We're just giving ourselves a couple more strings to work with. Now this pattern, I have worked it out to the length it needs to be as long as I'm using single strands, right? Now, if I were to double up the strings, this whole thing becomes much, much shorter. So maybe I should do a video where I make the pattern that way. Because honestly, the shorter version might be something that you guys are into. It'll certainly go a lot faster. There's a lot fewer knots when you double up the string. It's like something like 17 rows or 18 rows, something like that. It's pretty crazy. And I think that pretty much means you would only end up with like 2 of these segments for the whole bracelet. It's a really striking difference in the number of strands altogether. So as you can see, I'm just working out where the underlying strings are to see how many are not in use, and to figure out like where does this string for this little bump out area, where does it come from? Because that might make the big decision as to how we give it color. So if you haven't already, leave me a comment. Tell me that you made it this far, you're still watching. Tell me how your day is. Yeah? I do actually read all my comments. I dream of a day where there's so many coming in that I can't. But we're far from that. I do read all my comments. And I do appreciate you guys. This is coming along nicely. And I guess the cool part about this is it means I get to make the bracelet again. This one, though, I already have one. Mandy already has one. So I guess that means when I make this bracelet, it goes in the shop. So there's that. Oh, we did a boo-boo here. Hang on, make sure I'm... Okay, fixed. All right. Obviously the next color is yellow. It could only have been yellow because that's what was needed for right here. The next one is orange. And I know that it does something funny. I just gotta remember how it works. So that one goes that way. Orange comes in, goes that way. That's how. And once it gets going, it's pretty self-evident. Whoops. This turns. Comes this way. It's just that getting it started part really throws it off. Whoops. So judging by this, most of everything that we can see leaves a big chunk of space for more strings. See what I mean? Like there is all these in here don't seem to have a color. Whoops. Missed one of the gray ones. All of these can almost be anything we want. And that is important to know. And this is what makes trying to design patterns without graph papers or without, this is GIMP I'm using, and the graph paper for my website, AKAAWOL.com. But this is what makes trying to do it in your head almost impossible, is there's so much going on, and most of the time we're only looking at what's on the surface. There's an awful lot left not doing much underneath. How did I do that one? This one goes this way. There. So that's most of all that's visible. That leaves 3 other strands that aren't doing much. Do 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 do. All right. So I've already figured out where we're going to put the light blue. We can bring it right here. And we can exchange it whenever. Like right here, this can be an exchange. This right here can be an exchange. See, this is perfect for being able to bounce it off. So in some ways, we've actually improved the pattern in making it so that way we don't run out of a given color, which is big. This definitely changes the way I will feel when it comes to actually making this bracelet, because honestly, running out of string is a nightmare. And yeah, this will fix that. And it doesn't change anything from the pattern itself. It doesn't put a light blue out in an awkward space or anything. Oops, missed a bunch of orange over here. got all happy with the yellow. Let me just bring these in so I can find them again. So yeah, this definitely boosts my confidence as to how nice the bracelet will be. Like I said, running out of string, the last thing you want to have happen. That it sucks. So yeah. And look at that. Boom. Done. Alright, that leaves two more colors, one of which ends up out here. My pattern had a green that ended up out there. And I'm also thinking that now that I'm looking at this, if the light blue is a problem, the dark blue is probably also a problem. So the question is, how do we get a different color out here? And then the other color should be dark blue. So let's find ourselves a nice green. And more this way. Yeah, that's closer to what I chose. So let's start from here. Just on the count because then we know it actually lands in the spot. And it's going to bounce around on the inside a lot, so this isn't like a string that's going to get used to make a whole lot of knots. That's okie doke. And comes out here. There. Alright. Do the same on the other side. It comes. Now that I have one in, I can actually, I don't have to start at the middle again because I can just follow what I did on the right side. And the cool thing is I think I actually already have string left over from making bracelets for Mandy and myself to actually make this. So I'm kind of actually excited about the prospects in putting this bracelet together. There we have it. So there's just one strand left, and it seems perfect that we make sure that the dark blue isn't going to run out, because obviously before it didn't play as big of a role, and now it totally does. So now that it's getting used more, it's only right that we have additional strings for it. And that's another thing. When it comes to like, when you look at some of the patterns that you can find online, they don't necessarily buffer the strings like this. Like give you, they'll just put in some kind of random color in here. So when you make it yourself and you're looking at it and you see that a color gets used a lot, and then you go ahead and you take the steps to make sure that you don't run into a problem, I think that's good bracelet design, honestly. And, you know, if you learn how to do this from me, you're gonna see these kind of things, and you're gonna be able to, you know, avoid the dangers of having a string run out before you reach the end of your bracelet. And it's not every pattern out there. It's just there are a number of patterns where it's not thought about. Like in here, right? There's no buffering the fact that that yellow in this case is a string that gets used an awful lot. You know? So yeah, hopefully this is a practice that we can teach and then end up having patterns like this where it's thought out to make it so that way the person doing it doesn't run into trouble. That's all. I just honestly, I hope this becomes more of a norm. All right, there we have it. So there's half of it. All we gotta do now is Control C, Control V, use our flip tool. Whoops. Flip it vertically. Get the moving tool. Bring it down here and just give that a little push to the side. Yep. And anchor the layer. Now, this side is, oh, it got flipped. Control Z. It got flipped the other way too. All right. When I hit it too close to the line, it flipped it horizontally. So there we go. Now we can anchor. Otherwise, we'd have had a whole lot of work on our hands. All right. So now it's just flipped, right? So check this out. If we go along and make that yellow, that orange, that yellow, that orange, that yellow, that orange, that yellow, that orange. That's how easy it is to flip it. It's kind of silly. Let's back out and do it. It's just one knot in each one of these little rows that changes its direction. So yeah, you could have these things going back and forth if you choose. But there it is. That's all it takes to get them all going the same way. Ta-da! I told you it was going to be easy. So there we have the modified version of the bracelet. I think it's pretty cool. I like the little green accents. I like the gray in there especially. I think that really kind of is going to make the other colors really stand out. And then the blues with the contrast of orange and yellow really stands out. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for sticking around this long. I'll be back with more videos as soon as I can do them. And thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys make all this stuff possible. I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you. And as always, don't get your strings in a bunch.